If you're wondering how much we Americans have had to shell out for this disastrous war in Iran, don't worry. Well, you should worry because it's a big number, but don't worry, we have the facts and the numbers for you. Anna, what is it?
Well, the number is actually a lot higher than what our Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, testified before the House of Representatives. Now, we'll get to that in just a moment, but real quick, the data coming out of Brown University shows us just how much the war in Iran is costing the American people. And the numbers are super alarming. So not only have we provided Israel with $30 billion since October of 2023, okay? This pointless war against Iran, which we are of course fighting on behalf of Israel, has far surpassed what Pete Hegseth has to say. So let's take a look at what Pete Hegseth told Ro Khanna during this hearing, and then I'm gonna reveal the number, which is not what Pete Hegseth is citing. Take a look.
You've testified that it was $25 billion in cost in terms of the munitions we used and what we paid for it. But when you add to that the damage that was done to our bases and today's dollars for buying replacement munitions and replacement aircrafts, what has the total cost been over the last 60 days?
That number right now reflects the total cost that we're seeing.
Including buying in today's dollars the new weapons and replacements, and incling the damage there. That's your testimony.
If there's adjustments to that, I would defer to the comptroller on that.
And how much are you seeing in terms of? Are you asking in terms of supplemental funding just for the Iran mission from this committee?
If and when a supplemental is submitted, the majority of it would not just be for
what would be the ballpark for Iran?
Munitions related to the entirety of what we want to get done.
A number, what would you submit?
It would be on Iran, it would be less than 25 billion, but there's a lot more we would ask for beyond just Iran.
You're saying it's 25 billion, okay, I would just, if you come back, you want to revise those numbers, because all the experts are disagreeing with you when it comes to today's dollars and damage.
The reason why Hegseth was struggling in that Q&A is because he was lying and he knew it. In fact, that hearing took place in April, to be fair, but the war from February 28th through June 16th, according to an analysis done by Brown University, has costed our country over $113 billion. I mean, and they have other trackers as well, Cenk, including how much we Americans are forced to pay additional energy costs, right, as a result of the inflation due to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and all of that. And so take a look at this next graphic. The cost of oil has jumped up 40.9% since the start of the conflict. And as you can see, that has increased the cost per gallon of gas by $1.15. Now, of course, that does fluctuate quite a bit, but at the end of the day, we are paying a lot more. The Iran war has cost Americans roughly $1,000 per household in higher fuel, food, and other expenses since the start of the conflict in February, according to an estimate shared last week by Moody's Analytics chief economist Mark Zandi. Okay, so that is out of control. And remember, it would be one thing if we are shelling out all this money for a necessary war to protect American national security, but that's not what this is. That is not what this is at all. We are losing American soldiers and bankrolling this war on behalf of a foreign country. Back to you, Cenk.
Yeah. Or if we were doing a war and it costs this much and it's heartbreaking and super tough times for Americans, but at least we're stopping a genocide like we did in Kosovo or Srebrenica, et cetera, or the Holocaust. I'm super proud that America stepped up and saved all those people from getting further annihilated in those horrible concentration camps during the Holocaust. But in this case, we're paying for a genocide and for more wars. And 80% of Americans don't want this war. 82% of Israelis do, but if you look at it closer, you take out the Palestinians, Arabs that are Israeli right now, 93% of Israeli Jews say, yes, we want this war. Then I have a very simple question for them. Where's my $1,000 check? every one of us had to spend $1,000 for the war you wanted, and 8 out of 10 of us didn't want. So when are you gonna pay for it? Like whenever we ask for health care for Americans, which by the way, every other developed nation has universal health care, and every liar in mainstream media pretends like it's some extraordinary thing that's impossible to pay for. But whenever Israel wants more war, Jake Tapper and everybody else on cable news never ask the question, how are you gonna pay for it? They say you must pay for it, otherwise we're gonna call you an anti-Semite, okay? So all of you Americans back to work. You haven't given Israel enough money and enough war. And get a load of this stat. This war is costing us $42 million per day. Just kidding, $42 million per hour. Every hour that goes by, so you watch one of those World Cup games, boom, that's $84 million that this war cost us. It just keeps going and going and going. And our government and our media says you have no choice at all. What did you think you were, in a democracy? Did you think you had freedom? We don't care if 8 out of 10 Americans don't want this war, or 98 out of 100 Americans, or 100 Americans don't want this war, because this war isn't for you. You're the dumb mules who have to pay for the war of the country that Washington actually loves, which is Israel. And there is no disputing that. These are all stone cold facts. The polling is absolutely real. Americans despise this war and don't want it. And our government and our media says, shut up and get back to work. Israel needs more money and more war. And now the question is, how much longer are we going to tolerate that? And elections in New York and Colorado show not much longer.
I hope not, But for the moment being, you have the Trump administration asking for additional funding for the war against Iran, which makes me worried, Cenk, because on one hand, you have these Wall Street Journal articles making it appear as though Trump is pursuing, a diplomatic route. At the same time, why would you need another close to $100 billion in additional war funding? So the White House is seeking an additional $87.6 billion with a B dollars to help with the war against Iran. In a letter outlining the Iran war funding request, the director of the White House Office of Management and Budget, Russell Vought, wrote that $67.1 billion of the fund would be used to cover costs related to the conflict with Iran and would include $21 billion for munitions procurement and the defense industrial base. The request also contains $11.1 billion to US farmers who have been negatively impacted as a result of this war. As I've repeatedly said on the show, the closure of the Strait of Hormuz not only impacts energy costs, but it also has an impact on fertilizer. A third of the world's fertilizer transits through the Strait of Hormuz. And because of this war, because of the closure of the strait, farmers have been unable to either have access to fertilizer, or if they do have access to it, obviously due to the lack of supply and regular demand, the price rises significantly. So they're looking to get Congress to allocate another $11.1 billion in order to provide some relief to the farmers. The latest funding request comes on top of Trump's proposed $1.5 trillion with a T, trillion dollar budget for the Pentagon, while appropriators in the Senate and House of Representatives have advanced legislation to authorize $1.15 trillion of those funds. The White House's request that the remaining $350 billion be approved in a party line measure has been met, luckily, with skepticism from senior Republicans. Maybe those senior Republicans understand that the American people are paying attention and this is just outrageous and ridiculous. Now, Democrats claim they're gonna push back or have been pushing back, although I think it's been largely performative. They did express more explicit concerns about the request, though. Patty Murray, the top Democrat of the Senate Appropriations Committee, blasted the supplemental funding request, saying that the Pentagon currently has $100 billion in unspent funds. So we've already spent over $100 billion fighting Israel's war for them. We've lost 13 service members that we know of. Hundreds of others have been wounded or injured. And then on top of that, you have the Trump administration asking for, close to another $100 billion to fight Israel's war. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So $87.6 billion. Now, what do we do on the Young Turks? We predict things for you guys. Why do we do that? So you see how things work, that everything is scripted. This is all theater. And so if it was the real world and everything wasn't already pre-scripted, we wouldn't be able to predict with any degree of accuracy. Would come out 50-50 on a lot of these issues. Is a bill going to pass or not, right? But we have what I would say is a nearly perfect track record on legislation. So I'm going to predict to you that yes, they will get the funding that they want, $87.6 billion or something along those lines, in that ballpark. Why? But the Democrats said they were going to block it. There's all these Republicans who say that they're disgruntled with the war. So it's, oh, wow, the media says it's 50-50. Oh my God, I wonder what's going to happen. And every article says, oh my God, the Democrats are going to block it. Is it going to be successful? They're not going to block it. It's all fake. They're going to get just enough votes to be able to pass whatever appropriation they want for Israel. Because if they need Democratic votes, you think Fetterman won't help them? Fetterman threatened just yesterday to say that there's one litmus test for him. He can stay in the Democratic Party no matter what they do. But if they betray Israel, that's it, he's out, right? I mean, he's so brazen. He's saying, I love Israel more than America. And so you could betray America, I don't mind, in 1,000 different ways. But if you don't do exactly as Israel orders, I'll vote with the Republicans. So he's gonna vote with them if they need the vote, and even if they don't need the vote. And then you think they can't find other Democrats? Of course they can, but it doesn't matter. They're gonna find enough Republicans to vote with them. Israel always gets what it wants from our government. This is not complicated at all. This wouldn't be a debate, it wouldn't be controversial if it weren't for the industrial lying of legacy media. Because every reasonable, rational person knows, you think the Israeli lobby gave money to 94% of Congress for their health, to cure cancer? Do you think that the politicians who took millions of dollars from AIPAC and the Israeli lobby are gonna vote against them out of principle? You'd have to be so incredibly stupid as to be a national reporter to believe that. That's almost never happened. So no, they will do as they are told by the people who funded their campaigns. And in this case, that's the Israeli lobby. So we will get more wars, you will get robbed, and all of Washington works for Israel. And good news, I'm saying it ahead of time. So if I'm wrong, and they said, that's it, we're not funding this war anymore and the war ends, you can come out here and go, oh, Cenk, you see that? You didn't know anything about politics, and Israel doesn't control America at all. Let's see what happens. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.